John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to Center Court, our big MBA admissions event. Today, we're taking you to three of the greatest cities in the world: Barcelona, Berlin, and Madrid. Three really remarkable, dynamic, wonderful cities to study in, to live in, to basically spread your wings. And we have the three of the top European schools in these cities for sure, of course. Let me start with Paula Mora, who is the MBA Recruitment and Admissions Manager at ESMT Business School in Barcelona. Beautiful location up on a hill overlooking one of the world's most magnificent cities. Love Barcelona. Can't get enough of it, gotta tell you.
Yeah.
And we have from Madrid, IE Business School, Daniel De Paulo, who is the Senior Manager of Global Recruitment, Madrid, one of the most majestic cities in all of Europe. City of character and history, beautiful place to visit. And you guys may not know this, but I'm going to Madrid soon. So how about that? Yes. IE is opening up a new campus. The president of Spain will be there for the inauguration. And I have the privilege of being in attendance and seeing the new facility and talking to students. And I'm really looking forward to that. And then from Berlin, really the best city in Germany, the youthful city, the city that has just incredible life. We have ESMT Berlin, and we have Rebecca Lotz, and you will not know by her accent that she is from Berlin, but let me assure you, she is in Berlin. She is Director of Career Accelerated Programs at ESMT Berlin. Welcome, everybody. So one of the things I want to talk a little bit about right from the start is, what does your latest intake look like? What are your projections for the new year? We all know that education worldwide has been disrupted by the pandemic. Things are much better this year than they were last year. And so I wonder if you can give us kind of the state of the school and the state of your latest incoming class. Why don't we start with Paula at ESA Business School in Barcelona?
Yeah, hey, John. Always good to be here in Center Court. Okay, so latest income. This was actually the biggest MBA class that we've ever welcomed.
Wow, how many? How many?
So we are 383. So this was almost a 10% increase to our usual 350 class. So we grew a lot, especially in Europe and Africa. So this was an interesting outcome of like a very aggressive commercial strategy in the continent, because this was something that we've been committed in increasing, and this year we finally made it. And I think that this was a lot the outcome of the pandemic, right? We know how the MBA can be an anti-cyclical business, where when the economy is bad, MBA applications tend to go up. So for next year, since the economy is improving and we're bit by bit leaving the pandemic behind, I think that this year is going to be a bit more challenging, to be honest. We're still going to have some economies that for us are very important, especially the emerging countries, suffering a lot from currency depreciation. In the latest class, one of the countries that we've had a big hit, that for me is a personal hit. That was my home country, that is Brazil, where we usually have high representation of students from there. We were actually half of what we usually welcome at the school. And I think that this will be a trend that we will keep seeing, and that we might correct, maybe with a more aggressive scholarship allocation, right?
And is that
so
more of a result of travel restrictions or not?
No, more result of the economic crisis that the pandemic brought in certain countries, right?
Yes.
In emerging economies where a lot of the jobs are informal, where you don't have a government that can provide as much as the rich countries, and you've had the virus really having a big toll in the economy. I think that the MBA became like probably 30% more expensive in the past year for Brazilians specifically, and I'm sure that that's the case for other emerging countries.
Right. Yes. And Daniel, how about at IE? What's the picture look like?
Well, as you know, we have 2 intakes every year, so you can start the program, the International MBA, in September or in January. We didn't have the biggest intake of the history of the International MBA, but was a good one. Okay, we had approximately 300 people start this September, and probably we'll have around 200, 250 starting next January. No, so we are talking about a year of 500, 550 students.
And what about the international dimension of that class?
Well, the September intake, we had about 92% of international students, mostly coming from Europe, okay, and also Latin America. As you know, as being in Spain, we have a really close relationship with Latin America. So 28% of our students came from Latin America. Another 15 coming from Middle East and Africa, mainly from Saudi Arabia or Emirates, okay? And then 16% of North America. But in total, more than 45 nationalities, I think so.
Great. And Rebecca, and Berlin at ESMT, what's the picture look like?
The picture, so we only have 1 intake a year, and our intake is actually in January. So we are approaching the end of our recruitment cycle. Currently, we've got 21 different nationalities represented. So 95% of our students come from outside of Germany. And to be honest, that is a trend which we have always held true. We are really good at bringing international talent to Germany and to Berlin. And interesting enough, what I find fascinating is that our top kind of, countries of origin are India, the US, and the Philippines. So I think that speaks to kind of how diverse our cohort is. And then beyond that, those are the kind of the top 3. But then we also have really good representation: Canada, Latin America, various countries across, obviously within Europe, but also within Asia, Middle East, and Africa. And this year, I'm also super happy that we have 37% women coming into our incoming class. So in terms of gender diversity, one thing we saw last year as a result of COVID were that actually women were more likely to ask for a deferral. And so last year, our female percentage is embarrassing. To be honest, I'll be honest, it's something that I hope is our lowest point that we never return to. And this year, I'm very, very happy to see that we are tracking back as it is. I personally would like to see gender parity in our MBA program. So therefore, this is a really good step to achieving that.
And Rebecca, the size of your intake is typically what?
We're small. We are small. I mean, like these numbers is like, we have 55, 60. We're a small business school. We kind of pride ourselves on having cohorts where everyone knows your name, faculty, everyone knows your name, where you really have a very personal experience and very boutique full-time MBA.
And Rebecca, how's the pandemic affected the learning environment?
We are coming out of, so we are back to full in-person teaching. Now, obviously, we are still offering courses in hybrid mode so that those that don't feel comfortable coming on campus can participate remotely, but obviously we are encouraging people. The German rules are 3 Gs. So basically that means, are you vaccinated, are you recovered, or have you been tested? And so while we are obviously, as Europeans, I think, data privacy is something that's really important to us. So therefore, while we do not ask students to declare one way or the other, we do request that they illustrate certain certificates. If they want to opt out, then they need to bring a negative test twice a week to the school to show that they're okay. remotely, and we take a lot of precautions. So we do have a mask wearing mandate still in place. And really, I think that that has helped, because for us, it's fundamentally important that every single student, every single member of staff, and every single member of faculty is safe, and that we work together in order to address the kind of the COVID challenges.
Sure. And Paula, how about at your school? How did it fare through the pandemic, and where are you now in terms of the protocols?
Yeah. So IESE has been one of the few companies or schools that have had in-person classes since since after the big lockdown, right? So we've actually retrieved on-campus classes in June 2020, obviously with a lot of restrictions, right? And we have implemented the hybrid system for whoever had symptoms or was diagnosed with COVID could follow up with the classes online. We were very, very strict with the on-campus protocols, right? So everybody had to wear a mask. Last year, the class that is usually split into 5 sections, they were split into 7 sections, so we could have less people in class. So that actually made us double our resources. So it was very intensive from that sense. The whole schedule, operationally wise, it was pretty intense. But on the other hand, it was what we thought we needed to do to keep delivering the MBA experience that we committed to providing, right? Especially because we have the case methodology where the debates and the case discussions, in-class discussions, are essential for the learning. We wanted to make sure that we were providing like a good learning experience with safety, with them for the students, and we were able to keep the cases under control. Anyone that was tested positive had a whole protocol when someone that was track and tracing the close contacts to avoid any epidemic in the campus. And we've been really successful in doing so, right? So that was the extreme cases from last year. This year, because we can see the things in Europe are a bit better, with most people being already vaccinated. We have, as Rebecca was saying, the triple rule of you're either vaccinated or you have a negative test, or if you've had COVID in the past 2 months, you need any sort of any of those 3 to prove that you can be on campus, right? You still have to wear a mask, but the classes are back to 70 students or 60 students per classroom. And you have a little bit less restrictions, right? But we follow up. We have a COVID committee. So it's people that are directly linked to the dean and that follow up with the positive cases and the active cases on campus, right? And we receive weekly newsletter on that. And the cases this past week has been 0, right? Among staff, faculty, or students. So now things are pretty much under control. And it's actually nice to see things going back to normal, you know, like cafeteria full again. And the campus is looking a bit more live, right? It's nice. It's actually very nice.
I mean, I've been on a few campuses already, finally, after so long being basically isolated. And it's wonderful to see them come back to life. And I was on the Stanford campus, for example, last week, and everyone was out, and yes, people are masked and they're very careful, but it's wonderful to see the students about and having fun and engaging with each other. Almost back to normal, almost, but not quite. And Daniel, at IE, how did the school fare through the pandemic, and where are you now? Oh, Daniel, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, yes. It was quite similar that Paola mentioned and Rebecca mentioned, no? What we were able not to open our campus in June 2020, okay? With a lot of restriction at that moment, we made a COVID committee, okay, where we implement some initiatives like we invest in technology, having heat detectors or heat sensors, okay, to the whole campus to see if anyone had fever or high temperatures. We also we installed something that we still have now, that is the COVID passport, okay, for each student. So they have an application that they must fulfill every day to acknowledge if they have fever or if they have any symptom, and if not, they are not able to access to the campus, okay? And they are able to upload their vaccination certificate, among others, and you have detectors of face identity, okay, through the whole campus, and allow you to enter to certain parts of the campus, okay, depending of your passport COVID, okay, that we have for them. But we were able to open the campus on June 2020. We also had at that moment to increment the capacity of the campus, because as Paula said, the maximum capacity of the class were 50 in our campus, and then we moved it to 25, the half of the capacity. So we had the campus running mostly the whole day, okay, for the MBA students and for other master's degrees. But right now, everything seems like that is working smoothly. 95% of the students are in campus right now. So we still have the liquid learning system that we have, that is our hybrid methodology. But 95% of the students are right now in campus. No? That is really something important. The things just a few cases that we have been struggling is more visas, okay, of people of certain countries to enter to the European Union, and mainly to Spain.
Right. Now, Rebecca mentioned a percentage of women in the program at ESMT Berlin, and I want to give each of you a chance to describe in a little more detail your typical cohort in terms of work experience, standardized test scores if you require them, gender splits. Give us a little more fine detail on who goes into the IE Business School International MBA program.
Great. Well, actually, this year we had the average age was about 30, okay, years old, and the average of work experience was 6. 40% of the class they have a background in business and management, okay. Another 14 were engineers. Another 12 come from a finance and economic background. 12 came from humanities and social science, and 5 came from a legal background. No, as I tell you about our gender diversity, was 35% of the classes are women, okay, and another 65% are men right now, and that's mainly all in terms of the class that we had this September.
And Paula, I saw that you were shaking your head and nodding in agreement with Rebecca when she said that many women deferred in the previous year. Did you have the same experience?
I was actually, when Rebecca said, my first thought of after hearing the 37% was jealous, because actually this last intake was actually a very shameful and embarrassing year for us in terms of percentage of women. We had, for the past 5 or 6 years, we had been able to, like consistently increase our percentage of women to more than 30%, like the last, the peak being 32. And then this year, we actually went back to 26%. And then running a lot of analysis, like we realized that it was because our biggest countries that usually provide us with many women actually had a big hit, right? So they are the US, that we usually have gender parity. So last year we had 49% of our American students being women. This year they were only 29, right? So we saw a tendency and a preference for American women to stay in the US, right? So that was a big hit for us. The Brazilians that I mentioned before, we are usually 40% of Brazilian women among the Brazilians, and we are usually 30 to 40 Brazilians in class. This year they are only 16. And Chinese as well. That was probably the nationality that differed the most. and they are usually on the 40s, 40% of women. And this year we had half of the Chinese that we usually have, right? So I'm not going to say that this year we did have a lot of the people from last year that deferred to this year, so we're going to start the year with a bit more gender balance. But what happened with last year is that people that were planning to start in 2020 deferred to this year, and most of them were men, right? So
yes.
We already kicked off the year with like 12% of women, right? And this was a mark that we were not able to compensate throughout the year because of these aggressors, right? Let's put it like this, like these big contributors of women that this year just didn't perform for like different reasons, right? Like the United States, very different story than Brazil, and very different story from China. But these are countries that we are very dependent on, right? And that just didn't pull off.
And in terms of the other metrics involving your class, work experience, standardized tests, where are you with those?
So we have our average of work experience being around 5 to 6 years of work experience. We do have a minimum of 3 years of work experience, and for us it's important that the student has worked something, right? Especially because of the case methodology, it's important that you have something to contribute to the class. It's true that we make some exceptions, especially for consultants, that usually we say that they work for in dog years, right? So 2.5 years for a consultant, it's probably 5 or 6, just because they work so much and they are exposed to so much. But usually 3 years minimum. And then the maximum, it depends a lot on the country, right? Like you have like some Asian countries, for example, Japan, that sometimes they choose to do MBAs when they're 10 or 14 years of work experience, right? So the range is really big. In terms of average GMAT, we have a 670 average, which has been consistent throughout the years. Also a big range, right? We do have people with a lot of with a very, very high GMAT. But this is something that we also feel comfortable in admitting people with not that high GMAT, because we have a very high touch personal admission process, right? Probably 90% of the people that choose to apply to ESA has had contact with someone from the admissions team, right? My team is very big and it's spread around the world. And we know the candidates in depth enough to be able to maybe give up a very high GMAT, right? So 670 is our average consistently throughout the years. At 29 point something years old, usually 30% women. And then in terms of geographic split, we try to have it balanced throughout the regions, right? So 30% being Americas, 30% being Asia, and 40% EMEA, right? So Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And then this year we saw decreases and increases in regions. Like we grew Africa a lot, we decreased Latin America a bit, but Latin America is a big part of our cohort, right? So sometimes we have even almost 20%, 27% of our students coming from Latin America.
And you mentioned the high touch admissions process. I should add that you have an evaluation day for many applicants who come to campus.
Yes.
When you're looking people over very closely.
Yeah. And to be honest, this was something that we really missed during the pandemic, right? Not being able to see our candidates and interact with them, you know, like and just spend a couple of hours talking to them, and even outside of the group dynamics that we usually have in the assessment days, right? We did have a virtual version of it this past year. It's definitely not the same, but at least it's another opportunity to have, you know, like an extra point of interaction with them, right? But the idea of the assessment day is to see them in a different setting than the interview that can be very stiff and very rehearsed, right? And sometimes not in the level of genuinity and authenticity that we like to see in our candidates, so we can be sure that we're picking the right people.
Take them off the script during your evaluation day, don't
exactly.
you?
Exactly.
And Rebecca, beyond the gender number that you put out there that sort of kicked off this discussion, what are the other attributes of a typical class in terms of work experience?
It's fascinating actually, because I think that ours are slightly older. So our average is 7 years of work experience, and the kind of the middle 80% is between 4 and 11 years. And actually, we really like having a range of experience in the class, because I think you've got someone, say, who is a early career manager, and they're learning from someone who has potentially 11, 12 years of experience. So they really have a lot of rich dialogue in order to exchange, to learn from each other. And that's, to be honest, that is a really important part of our program, and something that we are at pains to evaluate when we're admitting you. In terms of industries represented, our top 3 industries are financial services, consulting and technology, and the kind of functions that people are coming from are marketing and sales, again, consulting, and from general management. So we get a real kind of interesting mix of people, and I think they're attracted to Berlin for Berlin as a location, for obviously, you know, the startup scene, for the counterculture, for the vibe that is Berlin in Germany, and also one of the strongest economies in Europe, if not the world.
Great. And let me do a little interpretation for our would-be applicants out there. If you are a woman and you want to go to business school in one of the great European capitals, apply now. You just heard that all 3 schools really want to see you and talk to you. So go for it. If you're from Brazil, China, North America, definitely get in the pool, because there's a shortage of candidates from those 3 countries right now, which immediately puts you up at the top of the pile. Okay. One of my favorite questions when I visit a campus, I love to go to a bar with students and I ask them this question religiously. I ask, tell me 3 things about the MBA program that will stay with you for the rest of your life. Rebecca, what would your students tell me?
To be honest, I know the thing which will stick with them for the rest of their life, and that's when students take part in our Responsible Leaders Fellowship, because this genuinely is a really transformational experience. Basically, post-program, we support you for 6 months to go and work with a social enterprise somewhere around the world. We cover your travel, we pay you a stipend, and you are there to make a difference and to put what you have learned into practice. It's the stories that our alumni can share, the stories that they tell us, the impact that they've had, the enterprises that they've worked with. We recently have pitching rounds. This year we're actually very fortunate because we're being funded partly by the BMW Foundation. And so therefore BMW Foundation gathered together a series of social entrepreneurs that they have been working with. And therefore they presented various projects to our students so that they have this. So that is, I say, that is the kind of like the clarion sound.
Okay, now wait a minute, I gotta ask a question about that. They do this after graduation?
They do it after graduation, but they're applying for it during the program. And effectively, this is something that they are applying for kind of like September. We do find that we have kind of a sizable number of the cohort who decide to postpone entering the job market directly in order to go and have this experience, because it's something that is so foundational. And actually, one of the things that we're looking at doing is that this is having such an impact on a post-program, we'd like to bring it earlier into the program. And so therefore are exploring how we can make this part of summer so that you as a student can have an impact in a sustainable way, really making a difference around the world from day one. So that's I guess, you know, top one. Then the others are, I mean, to us, our small cohort size. you know, we can't compete with the big schools. And to be honest, you know, it's lovely having my friends and my colleagues here from ESE and IE. We are a smaller school. We offer a different type of learning experience. We really pride ourselves on knowing who you are, on being available to you. Our faculty have an open door policy. We have a student faculty ratio of about 3:1. So therefore, we really are very approachable. And I think also one thing that's probably, you know, not necessarily known that much is we were talking earlier, I've been joined the school for 4.5 months. We don't really have a strict hierarchy. So it is literally a case of, you'll see the president kind of in the cafe, in the restaurant, and students go up and talk to him. There's a real sense of approachability. And so I guess, you know, the last thing is just around the fact that experience and what that gives you. So you're studying here, you've got access to the Berlin ecosystem, you have access to this really tight-knit cadre of students that are going through a journey together. And genuinely, I think that these three things are what kind of like our foundation posts in the ESMT Berlin experience.
Very good, thank you. Daniel, what are your three things?
Well, great. The first one will be, we create 3 years ago, okay, the Transformational Leadership Program, okay, within the International MBA. And this Transformational Leadership Program was designed to transform managers into business leaders. No? So the program focuses on your needs, taking you on a path of personal growth, okay, to develop your desired skills, because leading change in an organization first requires a deep understanding of oneself, no, before addressing the individual team member or the broader team, no. The program begins with a pre-program assessment of your leadership style and finish with a personalized 6-month action plan that you create. Agile thinking, communication, leading high-performing teams, leading through emotions, among others. So it's a really, we create this pre-program assessment to give you a personalized 6-month action plan. That's how you will be the leader, the leader that you will be, you will understand yourself to be the best leader possible. Then the second will be entrepreneurship. For sure, IESE Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center give to all the students access to investors, to mentors, and to a worldwide network of successful entrepreneurs. Okay, we have Area 31, for example, that is an in-house incubator, that is a workspace where you will be able to find startups, okay, and to work in any stage of developing of your own company and to work with different people, okay, in order to have a successful, to develop a successful company. And then the third will be, I would say, customization. This is a highly customizable program that puts you in the driver's seat, okay, of your education. We have more than over 120 elective courses, okay, that will allow you to explore different areas that more than business management. Could be tech, could be social impact, entrepreneurship, of course, among others.
Great. Now, Paula, I know you're predominantly case study, like Harvard Business School in the US. And in fact, the origins of the school are connected to Harvard, which is why you became a case study school. And your program is longer than the typical one-year program. But what are the three things that students would tell me, man, I loved about that school, I wouldn't trade it for anything?
Yeah, okay. So if we were in a bar, I could tell you, because I'm an alumna myself, right? So I wouldn't have to steal from other people's experience. And I think that's just, I was here thinking about the three pillars. And I think that at the end, in terms of the structure of the program, like each person kind of has their own experience, but I think that it can be summarizing these three big blocks, right? I'm actually going to start with the community. And I think that this is probably what made me stay at the ESE, right? So I graduated in the class of 2016, and it's been 5.5 years that I've been working as staff. So my history with ESE already is 7 years old. And this what made me apply to ESE, what made me love the experience and stay working for the school. It is the fact that it's a mission-driven, a value-driven business school, right? So we were founded because we believed that business could be a force for good, and that if we had business leaders that were well-driven and ethical, they could make the world a better place through a more positive leadership, right? And that's when we were founded, based on the Harvard case methodology, and also a longer program, because we believe that the depth of the transformation that we're looking for in our students happen throughout a longer period, right? So this is why we needed to be a bit longer, and we were the first 2-year program in Europe, right? So traditionally the MBA programs here are shorter, and ESE was the first one to have a 2-year long program. So definitely the community, you know, like this whole the values and the spirit of service attracts people that are looking at making their career an impact career, right? No matter where you're going, not necessarily to work with social impact, although I actually think that this initiative from ESMT is amazing. I wish we could do something similar at ESE as well. But we also believe that if you want to go into consulting and investment banking, you can also have an impact career, right? Like if you are like an ethical leader that cares about your people, about the society and environment, you can also have an impact, right? So this was definitely something that made me fall in love with the school, and I decided to stay. The case methodology, I think it's a way to make it the learning more practical, right? So like you leave the theory and things become much more tangible and much more practical. And then when you go back to the real world and you're faced with a business challenge, you remember a case, or you've built like a mental framework on how to solve problems, that things become like more easier and more assertive. And also you've built teamwork skills that will help you address that business challenge. So I think that definitely the case methodology is the second pillar. And in terms of the program structure, like for me, I'm an engineer by training, and I was working with consulting before the MBA. And I feel that the general management approach that ESE has is also something very special, right? And very interesting, because in the first year, you're forced to study subjects that probably you wouldn't choose to study. And then eventually you realize that they are essential to understand a business holistically. And then in the second year, you're able to deep dive on your interests, right? And the summer internship in the middle of between the first and the second year can also be a good steering wheel in your career, which was definitely my case, right? I interned with ESE as a research assistant. I did a project with education with a ESE professor, and that was the moment that I decided that I wanted to stay in education, right? Cut the scene, here I am 5 years later, very happy with my job and considering myself very successful in my career, right? But it all came from this deep reflection and deep transformational process that came from, like a more holistic understanding, and then focusing on the things that I was interested in the second year, and then eventually choosing a career that I really wanted to be in, right?
It's clear you're passionate about it.
Yeah, that's why I talk so much.
Okay, we are running out of time, but I want to play a game. Let's pretend that I don't have gray hair or wrinkles, and that I'm 29 years old, and I want to go to your school. So I come to visit, and you're going to bring me on a personal tour. What are you going to show me that's going to convince me to go to Berlin, Rebecca?
Okay, so well, I mean, like, a building is a building. Our building is rather special. However, I think a building is actually, a school is more about the people in it. So to be
Sure.
honest, if you come to ESMT Berlin, yes, we'll give you the campus tour, but we'll also introduce you to our current students. You can sit in on a class, you can talk to our faculty, you can meet admissions, you can meet me. Basically, we really want to understand and learn more about you. So I think of a campus visit potentially almost as a bit of mutual dating. We're both trying to evaluate each other. We're trying to work out if we can help you achieve what you want with your MBA. Is this going to be a good fit? Are you going to thrive? Are you going to be happy? And of course, you're also trying to do the same by going, is Berlin a place I want to dedicate, 14, 15 months of my life? Is the school somewhere I can thrive? Are these people that I can see myself studying alongside with and learning from? So I guess I know that we're against time, so that my short and sweet is effectively really trying to basically make sure that we have a date with you on campus where you actually go, yes, I want to learn more.
Okay, now Rebecca, after I tour your campus, talk to your students, sample a class, and really get the culture of ESMT Berlin, what are you going to do with me at night? Where are you going to bring me? What kind of restaurant? What kind of bar? Where are you going to bring me?
Well, that one could depend on the individual, but I think it's like some of the obligatories must be the beer garden. So of course, kind of like sampling some of Germany's fine beer. It could also involve a doner kebab. So this is the home of the doner kebab. There are also, to be honest, I'm vegetarian. There are a shocking number of vegetarian and vegan options in Berlin. So for a German culture that seems to be traditionally meat eating, there are a lot of alternative options. So there we go. So, and then if we're really going for late, then around 3 a.m. is when the clubs actually start really kicking off. So then it's Berghain, it's one of the big clubs. Oh yeah, you set your alarm, you get up super early if you're a bit of an old mofogey. But most people party on through the night.
3 a.m. Okay, well, there you go. I'll have to drink some special elixir to keep me awake at that time. Daniel, how are you going to convince me to go to IE Business School in Madrid? What am I going to experience if I come?
Well, I will take you to a Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid football game. No, soccer games. I'm just joking. Probably at night. But during the day, if you are in Madrid, I will show you the lab period of our MBA. Okay, that mainly is a fully immersive experience where we take a student from a challenge. Okay, we come to there with a challenge. We take a student from a challenge to a business solution, okay, or a startup idea in 5 weeks. So we will have students working in campus in an incubator in the Area 31, but also we have students maybe in different companies like IBM working in a tech lab, or working at Iberdrola, that's an energy company, in an impact lab, okay, for the social community, or maybe we have people at IBM working in a business impact, Microsoft working in a business impact lab. No, so we have different students working at different places of Madrid, in companies or in-house. So that would be the experience that I would like to show to the students, so they will be able to, or the candidate, they will be able to see, okay, that you are able to choose different paths, okay, inside IE. You are able to customize your program, but also you will be learning about real experience, no, in our incubators, or also in different companies. That during the day, and then in the afternoon, as I told you, probably will be a soccer game, okay, in Real Madrid Stadium, Bernabeu, or Atletico Madrid, or maybe a dinner, no, and show you the nightlife in Madrid. That is also really nice. As you know, Madrid is one of the most popular cities in Europe, no?
That sounds lovely. Now, in Barcelona, where I have spent some time in the evening, tell me what I'm going to experience at your school.
Yeah. Well, we do the campus tour, and I think that one of the things that on campus really impresses is the gardens. The gardens at ESA, they are really nice, and I think that everything in campus kind of instill a lot of our values, right? On the excellence, the attention to details, the care, right? I agree that the people is actually what builds the vibe. So you look at the students are happy. There's a lot of social interactions. The campus is fairly small, right? So it's a set of buildings, and that makes the interaction among students very easy. And then we usually finish the tour going to the other building that is a bit upper the hill. And as you said, ESA is actually like not in the city center, but a bit above. So you can, from our terrace, take a look at the whole city, and then you can see the sea. And then I think that this is a good, it's a good demonstration also, and a good reminder of the city that the student could potentially be enjoying, right? And I think that ESA and Barcelona as a city is a city that provides a lot, like a very, very good quality of life, right? Like it's fairly small, easy to go around, beautiful architecture is from out of this world. You have a lot to do, right? You have to see. I could take you for, you probably would take me to more places than than I know myself. But a good tapas place with a good pan con tomate and patatas bravas and like a cold beer, like overseeing the sea. I think that's a good good way to finish a campus tour and to close the visit experience in Barcelona.
My goodness, I want to come to all three places. I want to do it immediately now. I want to have those experiences. I think that's spectacular, really. So, hey, it's been a great pleasure of mine to have all three of you here. And I really want to thank you for your time and your insights. It's been very helpful to, I'm sure, many, many people. And for all of you out there, if you have questions, there's a way to reach our three panelists. Just email them, reach out. They want to hear from you. They want to talk to you. The admission staffs at all three schools are incredible. They're really friendly people. They want to engage. They want to get to know who you are and whether or not you're going to be a good fit for their MBA programs. Go to their websites. There's a tremendous amount of detail about the program and about what they expect of you as an applicant. I think that would be really super helpful. And when you show up on campus and take advantage of these wonderful tours and meeting these incredible people and going out for a night on the town, you want to make sure you do your research and ask intelligent questions that can't easily be answered by reading the website. All right, Rebecca, Paula, and Daniel, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And for all of you out there, really, we appreciate your coming. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. We'll be back for another session in about 15 minutes.